Okay, we are coming back better than ever. If you were with me on Facebook a little while ago, you saw that I had some technical difficulties, and I'm coming back now with another program called Be Live. And I have Jason right over here, right over here. Is it doing it over there? Right here with me. So this is the first episode of Transformational Tuesday with Carlyn. And the intention behind this is knowing that our stories connect us all. And I want to create space to show that there are so many of us out there going through so much, but there's always something that's relatable. And it's the power of sharing our stories, not feeling alone. When we can see someone else has grown through something, it gives us permission to go through it ourselves, or maybe even be open to it. And on the same notion, I don't know if a lot of you know the work that I do. And so Jason is one of my clients that I recently wrapped up spending 12 consecutive weeks with. And I asked him if he would be comfortable to come on and share a little bit about his journey. So first of all, Jason, I want to say thank you. This is our first time seeing each other face to face.
Absolute first time. Yep.
It's kind of wild,
right? A weird relationship we've had in the past couple of years leading up to this. So it's been.
Yeah. Well, why don't you share how we first connected?
Very first, going way back.
Just say how we first connected, and then what brought us to this moment.
Back in the day, I don't even know how many years ago it was. I was kind of lost and fumbling, and I was starting a nonprofit organization, and I was looking for people to kind of sit on the board and get some information from. And my cousin Emily actually was out in San Diego with you at the time, and you were one of the people she recommended I reach out to. So I reached out to you then. I don't know if that was 2004, 5, 6, whenever that was. So that was kind of the first introduction to, I think, the first time that we actually maybe shared a Facebook message or something.
Right.
And then throughout the years, I think if I look back through my messenger, there's a small handful of communications back and forth, just
right.
It's like keeping in touch. Hey, how's it going? Great job with this kind of stuff.
We were connected on Facebook for about 8 years or so, but hadn't made that next step. And then back in around September, I posted on the Strangers to Friends page that you were following. And I basically invited people to join me for a 30-minute conversation if they were feeling like they wanted to connect, or they just wanted to talk about something they didn't know who to talk about. And is that what spoke to you to connect with me?
Absolutely. Back around that time, actually October 1st, I had started a new business. Left corporate America. Was just kind of getting out on my own, first time running my own company, was kind of in this lost space. And when I was in this mentality of okay, I'm here, I'm in charge of my own destiny, essentially, what do I do next? When I'm kind of in this mental space, your ad popped up on Facebook, and it essentially said, hey, if you want to just talk, connect, hit me up. We'll see kind of where that goes. And at the time, that's kind of what I was looking for, some type of coach, some type of direction, some type of, I guess, a different perspective to what I was doing. And that kind of led me to reach out that initial time and say, hey, let's talk and see where this goes.
So I remember you saying in our first 30 minutes together that I brought you to a place like it was like minute 29. And you're like, you took me from here to here faster than any therapist or any coach has ever brought me. And you should be charging more for this. And I was like, well, thank you, Jason.
Yeah, there's, I think it was probably within 5 minutes of our talk. You called me out on exactly what I think, two psychics, a palm reader, tarot card people. Within about 5 minutes, you called me out on exactly what they had been telling me. And in that first conversation, there was this mixed emotion going on in me. I'm like, oh crap, not another person telling me this. That kind of view. And then at the same time, there was, you know what? I guess I really have to face up to this, because now there's somebody physically in front of me willing to help me. And this is what we're bringing up yet again in my life.
Wow. So it was kind of like that moment.
It was really powerful. And it was that fact that I don't create enough space in my life kind of for me. I think that's the first thing you called out. You're like, you don't.
Well, I said you don't put yourself, you're challenged to put yourself first.
Very
And I
challenged. Yeah.
think that as a man, because, a little background about you, you're happily married, you have two beautiful children, and you've now just embarked on this massive endeavor of launching your own company. And so where does Jason fit in when it comes to all of this? There's a lot for you to manage. And when I leaned into this and I felt this from you, the first thing that came to mind, and we didn't even get on the call to really discuss long-term connection, but what came to mind is this book, The Artist Way, because I know how powerful of a journey it is, not only in connection with yourself and connection outside yourself, but creating time for yourself, because that is the journey of it. And one of the assignments in this Artist Way journey is every week, you actually have to schedule this connection time with yourself. And I said, how would you feel about being held responsible in this space that you're going to try new things for yourself? You're going to, allow yourself to act like a kid when you want, it's just you time. And when I brought up the book and I started sharing with you some of the tools that are used throughout the book, it was only after that you brought up a side of yourself I didn't even know, and that is your poetry.
Yes. Yep. A part of the book, a part of it was setting a goal, essentially. And if you deep dive in with people with that's one of the first things you would ask me is like, think of a goal that you'd like to accomplish that we can help unblock you for to get to. And that idea that I had thought about was one of the things that comes up in my life quite regularly, is just writing some poetry, some spoken words, some things like that every now and again. So my thought was, well, I've been wanting to write a book for a long time. Let's make my goal to write and publish a book of poetry. It seemed as good of a goal as anything.
Right. And there's something to be said about, coaching doesn't necessarily need a tangible goal, but when you can create a tangible goal of something you're working towards in alignment with the journey that you're going through, I think it makes you feel a little bit more in control of it, in a sense.
It gives you, I don't want to say an end game, but something to strive for, something
right.
You're looking for. It gives you a purpose to be going through these steps.
So what I know is that you're 42, no, 40. You're almost 40. What am I?
Couple more months.
You turn 40 in June. I know this. And never, ever in your life had you ever read any of your poetry out loud to anybody.
Not a single time.
So it was our, I don't know, maybe third session together. And mind you, all of our sessions have been on the phone. We got together on Tuesdays or Fridays, and we would talk, and we would allow the book to initiate some of our conversation, or just what was going on in our life and what stories were relevant. And I challenged him. I said, well, you have to read me one of your poems. And the irony was, the first time you did it, I was walking in some crazy spot of Boulder, and all of a sudden, right as you started talking, my head, the sound cut out. So you read it through all this fear, and I never even heard it. And it was the coolest lesson to be able to go, how do you feel? And you're like, oh my God, it wasn't nearly as bad. And I was like, great, because I didn't hear anything.
I did it. It's over. I made it through it. I survived.
By the way, and then 5 minutes later, I had you read it again, and now you already felt more ease because you'd already done it, and it was just so powerful. So, and also, what did you do the first artist date you had with yourself?
I think that was the skateboarding one.
It was.
I think that was. I've got a longboard. It's essentially a paddle board for the land. And I haven't ridden it in years. I haven't skateboarded in years. And I just decided, hey, I've got some time at lunch, and I went to my garage, grabbed it, took off around my neighborhood. The really cool part about that particular experience, though, I don't know my effect on this person, but I was just driving down the street, and there was a lady. She was a little larger. It looks like her knees were bad. She had some bandages on them. She was trying to get into her car and having a really hard time with it. And as I was going by, she just kind of stopped what she was doing. She was watching me. And I did stop to help her in the car. not that mean, but she had mentioned just this little light in her life. She had mentioned how she used to be able to do things like that and how fun it was. And we just got to share this little memory of a moment from her before I went on with my day. And it was a really, really fun thing to happen just out on this little, tooling around my neighborhood on a longboard.
But also, I'm going to remind you, you told me one of the reasons you had not skateboarded as you were scared of what people would think of you at the park. And that's like a big part of it. So I'm a
40-year-old man on a skateboard.
So what happened when you showed up to the park? There was nobody.
Absolutely empty.
It was absolutely empty. And again, you were reminded this was a story that you had created that was limiting you from having joy in your life by doing something you love. Because you're an extreme sports guy. I mean, you have a major history with a lot of different sports that you just haven't been doing, but they're a part of you. They're like your inner child. And with you having your 2 young children, I said, Jason, don't you think your kids are going to want to see a dad that's out there and willing to play and can play, and there's this ripple effect,
Mm-hmm.
And so so we could talk about all the things you did, how the chapter on anger was really relevant for you and how we had some really deep dive conversations around that, not in terms of inner anger so much, but even your relationship with your children and their needs at night at 3 a.m. and just the way we process things. If someone was listening right now and they wanted to know, like, what's it like to talk to Carlyn every week? Like, what would you say?
A head explosion.
Right.
No, and we talked a little bit about that when we really got into this. The artist way, it's such a powerfully transformative tool going through these steps. It was 3-4 weeks in when we kind of started getting off that track a little bit, and our conversations just were kind of free flowing, based on whatever actions or activities were going on the few previous days. The real power for me came when I was really getting your perspective on that. I was in my little bubble of how things should be, how I want things to be. And then talking to you, you essentially would come in and blow that door open on what I thought and say, well, have you thought about this? Have you seen how this thing you were doing actually affected this? And how some of the relationships I've built in this business kind of lined up in these synchronistic steps.
You had a lot of synchronicity starting with you in ways that
amazing.
Even freaked me out. Like, how am I a conduit and catalyst to all this? But I recognized I was, because I asked you, did you have this much synchronicity in your life before? And your answer wasn't so much, maybe the answer, it was more like you didn't have the awareness of it.
I think it was the awareness. I could look back in my life and say, oh, okay, I realized why I went through that. I needed to learn this. And 5 years later, I'm realizing why. Speaking with you and kind of rehashing what's going on, it brought that awareness of the synchronicities more to the present time, where it was a weird, it was being able to see them in person. Mm-hmm. Like I'm sitting here talking to this person right now, and I understand why they're here and how they fit into the scenario. And, oh, by the way, the person sitting right behind me, oh, that's my meeting that's coming up later today. They just happen to be here. Now I can turn around and I've got everybody that I need in my circle for the project right here with me. And that's the way this whole journey has been. And a big part of recognizing that, but not only recognizing it, but being able to stay in that mindset of synchronicity, not losing it.
Right.
Going through our talks every week and rehashing kind of what went on and how they all lined up. And
like I kind of came up with the formula during our work together that vulnerability equals synchronicity equals possibility. And that vulnerability piece, whether it's like us being whether it's you allowing yourself to be vulnerable with me, whether it was being vulnerable in your business, vulnerable with your clients, there's this area of the magic presents itself in these synchronistic moments when we drop from here to here, and we surrender to the way it is meant to be rather than controlling the way we think it needs to be, and not having those limited beliefs that it's like releasing the control and then releasing that you're worthy and you're safe, it's like the universe rewards love in a way. And the love is the self-love that happens when we allow ourselves to be in this vulnerable space.
Yes. And the limiting beliefs, bringing that up was one of the, aside from the anger discussions, the limiting beliefs was one of the most powerful discussions that we had. A lot of in the business realm, we're busy with setting goals, we're busy with setting expectations, meeting quotas, everything along those lines. And even in life, we tend to do that a lot. And what I realized quickly through you was that these limiting, I was limiting myself to where the business could go, to how we could grow, to what our opportunities are, and that moved itself, transitioned into that kind of hustle versus flow mentality. Because we're taught from such a young age, you got to hustle. You got to grind. You got to do all this to be successful. And what we really got into and had some wonderful conversations on was exactly what you just said, is that getting out of your way, being more in the flow, not necessarily pounding the pavement, grinding every day, but recognizing the flow of synchronicities and following that path, following where that path takes you, and acknowledging, accepting what comes into your path, not necessarily fighting to try to get what you think you need.
Yeah, and such a huge, I mean, knowing that I helped you or supported you to come to that space is like, that's why I do what I do.
That was my biggest anxiety reducing set of discussions.
Yeah.
Just that ability to step back, say, you know what, I'm going to flow with this. I'm going to see where this takes us. It took a lot of the pressures off of running a business, and really reduced that anxiety and brought it down to a level that was more manageable. Wasn't affecting my family. I'm not this stress ball just sitting there trying to deal with my kids. It allowed me to be in a good headspace for business and a good headspace for play. I'm now playing every week, which is helping me with the kids more, because I'm a lot freer to get down and play with them, interact a lot more on their level instead of this uptight adult level. So yeah, that idea of flow versus hustle and removing those limiting beliefs were some of the biggest stress and anxiety relievers for me personally for this journey we went through.
Awesome. Mission accomplished. So now I have one last question. You know, I think a lot of times people think of coaching, it's more of this in this feminine space, and they think of masculinity more of a business coaching mindset. And I really want to show the world that we're all in this together, right? And I think men often struggle because they don't know who to turn to. And it's a little out of their comfort zone at times, I'm not trying to generalize, to ask for help and support. Especially when you're happily married and have 2 kids. And I was joking, like, you know, not even joking, but the way I see what I do when I work with men is I'm actually helping women, because the more men that I can help love themselves and, you know, and step out of this space of anxiety, just the better off the women in their lives or the women in their business, you know, because it's all energetically connected and it's all going to be a ripple. What would you say to any men out there that are considering, that find themselves in a place of being lost, or are considering the idea of seeking help, whether it's with me or anybody out there?
The idea of having a coach, having having somebody to turn to outside of your normal life. Like, I would tell everything to my wife. I would tell everything to my close friends. But the viewpoints you get back are very biased and based on your life. Having somebody to reach out to somebody outside of that scope of your life is a very powerful thing that can lead to great advancements and improvements in your thought process and the way you do things. From a masculine perspective, yeah, we're raised that it's hard work. You got to do it yourself. You have to be the leader. It's very hard. It's not hard to be a man. I'm not saying that by any means. It's hard to reach out as a male in a masculine capacity for help. And that's an environment that we have built for ourselves. But for the men out there, The ability to improve yourself is way more valuable than that kind of holding on to that I need to do this myself. I need to be the strong one mentality. Just the knowledge that it's okay to break down. It's okay to release or let somebody through some of those barriers. It's a hard thing for us to do, but a very powerful exercise that I really wish more people would go through.
Yeah, because the only way you were capable of stepping into that space is by me creating it.
And yeah, having somebody there to actually open up and allow you to fumble through it.
Right. There's no right or wrong way.
Opening up is a very new concept for me and for a lot of people I know. And having somebody like you allow us that space, allow us that room to not necessarily not judge us, but to say, okay, that's where you're coming from. That's great. Now here's some of the ways we can look at it and really help you out in that space.
So good, my friend. So good. And now, just while we're here, why don't you share? I guess I don't want to just like plug your business, but I do think it's neat for us to learn a little bit about who you are. Why don't you tell us just what you do, where you live, and then we'll wrap this up in a minute.
Awesome. Sounds good. I am in Chicago, Illinois. I've been here for about 8 years. Started way up in northern Michigan, then moved down to Traverse City, Michigan, out to Washington State, back to Chicago, had this whole roundabout thing going on. A lot of cool experiences along the way. But what we're doing now is I just started a company. We're a cybersecurity consulting and testing firm, really working with just the small and medium business markets in and around Chicago at the moment. But the way things are looking, that market is ballooning very quickly, and I cannot be more thankful and grateful for that.
And I love that I got to hold you through this cocoon process of literally leaving your corporate job and the beginning journey of this business being birthed.
Yeah,
and that's the in-between stories piece. When I say my favorite place to work with people is in between their stories, that's exactly where you landed that's exactly where you were when you landed with me.
The timing there's no way it could have been any better. It was right when it needed to be, where it needed to be.
Exactly. So thank you so much for hanging with me and going live. I know this was out of your comfort zone, and hopefully it's a warm up for more opportunities for you to be sharing with the world, whether it's in business or whatever capacity. And I'm going to trust that when I hit end broadcast, that this thing recorded and we are good to go. And then
it's going to work out and it's going to be wonderful. And it's starting off a whole new journey for you.
And if it didn't, and so it is.
It is. It's like my first reading of my poetry.
And now what? We'll do this again another time. But I think we're good now. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up and just announce to everybody that I am starting a 12-week program with The Artist Way, both online for anyone in the country to join, as well as a combination of online and in person for anyone here in Colorado. I'll facilitate the in-person events out of my new house in Lafayette. So if you're interested in learning more, please message me. I will send out more information. I'm looking at a start date of the online version as February 5th and the in-person version as February 13th. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Jason, thank you for being you. And
thank you so much for the last 12 weeks.
Yes. I'm hoping it's not the end and you'll have me as your bag of tricks when you need me again.
When we get bigger, I'm bringing you into the company. So.
Yeah, I'm in. Okay, guys, we will talk to you later. Thank you so much.